The old man froze in his tracks. Through the howling blizzard, he heard it. Faint cries, weak and desperate. Following the sound, he found a small cage half buried in snow. Inside were 5 shivering puppies, their tiny bodies pressed together, barely alive. Beside them sat their mother, thin and trembling, her eyes full of pain and hope. Cars passed. No one stopped. But Henry couldn't move on, not this time. His hands were shaking, his breath short, yet his heart wouldn't let him walk away. What he did next would not only save 6 lives, but reveal a truth so powerful it left an entire town in tears. This is the story that will melt your heart. Before we start, make sure to hit like, share, and subscribe. And really, I'm curious, where are you watching from? Drop your country name in the comments. I love seeing how far our stories travel. The morning was eerily quiet, the kind of silence only winter can bring. Snow blanketed the empty road, muffling the sound of distant engines and footsteps. An icy wind howled through the trees, carrying with it the faintest sound, soft, trembling cries. Most people would have mistaken it for the wind. But not Henry. The elderly man, wrapped in a worn brown coat, stopped mid-step. His cloudy eyes scanned the roadside until he spotted it. A small metal cage half buried under snow beside a pile of rusty rods. Inside, 5 tiny puppies huddled together, their fur soaked, their eyes wide with terror. Beside the cage sat their mother, a thin German shepherd, her body trembling, her gaze fixed on her trapped babies. Henry's heart sank. The mother let out a low whine as if begging him to help. Her paws were bleeding from scratching the cage, her breath visible in the freezing air. Cars passed, drivers glanced, but no one stopped. Henry felt his hands tighten around his cane. The cold bit through his gloves, but he didn't care. He looked at the desperate family before him, and in that moment, he knew he couldn't just walk away. Henry stood there for a long moment, snow piling on his shoulders, his breath shallow in the freezing air. His knees ached, and his fingers were stiff from the cold. But when he looked into the mother dog's eyes, he saw something that broke him. Fear mixed with hope. It was as if she was silently pleading, "Please don't leave us." He knelt slowly, his old bones protesting. "It's okay, girl," he whispered, his voice trembling. "I'm here now." He reached out and touched the cage. The metal was ice cold, biting into his skin. The puppies whimpered louder, pressing their tiny faces against the bars. Without thinking twice, Henry took off his scarf and began wrapping it around the cage, shielding them from the bitter wind. He tried to open the rusty latch, but it was frozen solid. His fingers bled as he pulled and twisted, desperate. Finally, with one strong jerk, the lock snapped open. The mother dog let out a soft cry and nudged her puppies as if urging them to move. Henry gently lifted them, one by one, into his coat. The snow was falling harder now, but he didn't care. "Come on," he said softly, turning toward the road. "Let's go home, before it's too late." The storm had grown fierce, the wind cutting through the air like knives. Henry trudged forward, clutching his coat tightly to his chest where the puppies lay nestled inside, their faint whimpers barely audible over the roaring wind. The mother dog followed close behind, her paws sinking deep into the snow, refusing to leave his side. Each step was agony. Henry's boots slipped on the icy path, his breathing ragged. His heart pounded painfully in his chest, but he kept going, whispering, "Hold on, little ones. Just a bit farther." The cold burned his lungs, and his legs threatened to give out. But the warmth of the tiny lives against his chest pushed him forward at one point. He stumbled and fell hard onto the frozen ground. Pain shot up his arm, but before he could rise, the mother dog pressed her nose against his face, whining urgently. I'm okay, he muttered, forcing himself to stand. The dim glow of his cabin appeared in the distance, a fragile promise of safety. With trembling hands, Henry opened the gate and stumbled toward the door. As he collapsed onto the porch, the mother dog barked frantically, circling him. The last thing he saw before darkness took him was her licking his face, guarding him as the snow kept falling. When morning came, the storm had passed, leaving behind a thick blanket of snow that glittered under the pale sunlight. A neighbor, Mrs. Collins, spotted strange tracks leading to Henry's porch and hurried over. What she found made her heart skip a beat. Henry lay motionless near the doorway, covered in snow, while a German shepherd sat beside him, whimpering softly. "Henry," she cried, rushing to his side. The mother dog barked once, protective at first, but when Mrs. Collins reached out, the dog stepped back, trusting her. Beneath Henry's coat, she found the puppies, warm, alive, and squirming softly. Her eyes filled with tears. "Oh, you old fool," she whispered lovingly. "You saved them." Within the hour, paramedics arrived. Henry was weak but breathing, his frostbitten hands still curled protectively around his coat. The dogs were taken to a nearby clinic, where the vet worked to warm and feed them. When Henry finally woke in the hospital, the first thing he saw wasn't the doctor or the machines. It was the mother dog sitting quietly beside his bed. Her head rested on his arm, her eyes gentle and grateful. Henry smiled faintly, whispering, "You stayed with me, didn't you?" She wagged her tail softly, as if to say, "We saved each other." As Henry regained his strength, word of his bravery spread throughout the small town. The local news ran a story calling him the man who saved a family of dogs in a blizzard. Visitors came by with cards, food, and warm blankets, but Henry didn't care for the attention. All he wanted was to see the dogs again. One afternoon, the nurse smiled as she opened the door to his hospital room. "You have visitors," she said. Henry's face lit up as the German shepherd trotted in, her puppies tumbling behind her. The mother dog climbed gently onto his bed, resting her head on his chest, eyes filled with warmth. That a young reporter sitting nearby asked softly, "Mr. Henry, what made you risk your life that night?" Henry's eyes misted. "Because I know what it feels like to be left behind," he said quietly. "Years ago, I ran an animal shelter with my wife. After she passed, I lost everything, my home, my purpose. But when I saw them out there in the cold, I saw myself." The room fell silent. The reporter lowered her camera, moved by the truth behind his act. Henry smiled faintly and stroked the dog's fur. "Guess I just couldn't walk away again." Weeks passed, and winter slowly gave way to spring. Henry was finally discharged from the hospital, greeted by the wagging tails of the puppies he had saved. The entire town gathered to welcome him home. Neighbors, children, and even the reporters who had shared his story. The German shepherd barked joyfully as Henry knelt to hug her, whispering, "We made it, girl." Soon after, a local shelter hosted an adoption event for the puppies. Families lined up, eager to give them homes. Henry sat nearby, watching with misty eyes as each puppy was carried away, healthy, safe, and loved. But when the last one was gone, the mother dog refused to move. She stayed by Henry's side, her head resting gently on his knee. The shelter worker smiled. "She's already chosen her home," she said softly. Henry chuckled, tears in his eyes. "Guess I'm stuck with you then." Months later, Henry's house was warm again, the fireplace crackling, the mother dog curled beside him, her eyes half closed in peace. The framed newspaper clipping on the wall read, "Elderly man saves family of puppies and finds a family of his own." Henry gazed into the fire and whispered, "Maybe I didn't just save them. Maybe they saved me." Outside, the wind howled softly, but inside, love had finally found its home.